Hi, and welcome to my video on Review 1, Inverse of Functions. This is on videos numbers 1 to 11, and as in all reviews, you can treat it as a quiz, and this one is marked out of 40. That means you can give yourself marks for each question and total at the bottom on each page, and then add them up and see what you're going to get out of 40. So here we go. And if you wish, you can pause your video on for each page and see if you're going to get the questions right. The inverse of a relation is the reflection in the line y equals x. The inverse of 2 comma 5 is 5 comma 2 because the ordered pairs are switched. If you get them right, give yourself a mark. The inverse of this table of values is the x's become the y's and the y's become the x's. So 1, 0, 1, 2 become the y's, and the x's become the y's, and the y's become the x's. So 4, 6, 8. So the ordered pairs are switched. 0, 4, 4, 0. 1, 6, 6, 1. 2, 8, 8, 2. Give yourself a mark if you have this table correct. Graph the inverse of this one right here. Graph the inverse of this. Well, what I do is I pick up the ordered pairs and I take the ordered pair. This one right here is 0, 0. This one right here, x is negative 1, 1. And right here, x is negative 2, y is 4. Negative 2, 4. So the inverse would be switch, 0, 0, switch, 0, 0. And negative 1, 1 becomes 1, negative 1. And negative 2, 4 becomes 4, negative 2. So it's inverse, and I'll do the inverse in red as I've normally done. So the inverse in red is 0, 0, didn't change. And negative, x is negative 1, y is 1. X is, 0, 0, x is 1, y is negative 1. X is 1, y is negative 1, which is right here. And x is 4, y is negative 2. X is 4, y is negative 2. So there's his inverse. There it is, like this. And if you have the graph done correctly, give yourself a mark. Number 5, find the inverse of f of x equals 3x plus 2. So this is a linear. So y equals mx plus b. Slope is 3. The y-intercept is 2. We change the f to a y. We change the f of x to a y. Now we switch the y's and the x's. Y becomes x. X becomes y. And since we switched, we now solve for y. So x minus 2. Move the plus 2 over to make it a minus. Divide each side by 3. So y becomes, it cancels, y is equal to, x divided by 3 is 1/3 x. Negative 2 divided by 3 is negative 2/3. So his inverse is f of x. The inverse is f to the negative 1 of x. So we get 1/3 x minus 2/3. So if you have this step done correctly, if you divide it correctly and did right here, you got it correct. And if you wrote this down, 3 marks. 1, 2, 3 in total. Number 6, A has 2k plus 2 for the x coordinate, p squared plus 1 for the y coordinate. B is 4p minus 3, and that's the x coordinate of b, and 7k minus 8 is the y coordinate b. And it says A is reflected in the line y equals x. Find the values of p, k, and p if b is the image of A. So when you reflect A in this line, it's doing the inverse. So A and B are the inverse of each other. So since they are the inverses, that means the x value in A, which is 5k plus 2, is equal to the y value in b, which is 7k minus 8. And the y value in a, which is p squared plus 1, is equal to the x value in b, which is 4p minus 3. So now that we have them, we'll solve them. So 5k minus 7k equals negative 8 minus 2. Notice this is a linear, degree 1. So we move the k's to the left, numbers to the right, change the sign. Negative 2k equals negative 10. Divide by negative 2. So we get 5. Dividing by negative 2, get a k. Divided by negative 2 gives you 5. And notice that this is a quadratic, so in quadratics, I'll move all terms to the left side in descending order. That's done. We have a quadratic, so I'll simplify. P squared is a quadratic, so it's hopefully it's factorable. Let's see if it is. P squared is p times p. Factors of 4 to give you 4. Factors of 4 are 4 and 1, or 2 and 2. 4 and 1 will give you 4, but when you add, you'll get a 3 or a 5, so it must be 2 and 2. The product is plus 4, the sum is negative 4. So if the product is positive, it must be 2 pluses or 2 minuses, so it has to be 2 minuses, because the sum is negative. So we got p minus 2 twice, and we're going to give you the same value of p, so p is 2. P is 2. So we got 5 marks. You got 1 for this line if you made these two equations, and you got 2 for solving this one and 2 for solving this one. So that's 5 marks altogether, and the total up your page. Hopefully you have 12 out of 12. Let's continue. Number 7, find the inverse of the f of x. F of x equals bracket x minus 2 all squared plus 4. Notice this is a quadratic. Degree 2 is a parabola. So we change the f of x to a y. We switch the y to an x and an x to a y. Now we'll solve for y, but we'll move the plus first, so it's x minus 4. And now we have a square, so we'll do the square root, so it's plus minus the square root of each side. So the square root of y minus 2 squared is y minus 2. And so y is equal to plus minus the square root of x minus 4 plus 2. So its inverse, f to the negative 1 of x, is plus minus x minus 4 plus 2. Notice this is a parabola whose vertex is 2, 4. So the plus is on the right side, and the minus is on the left side of this parabola. And there's 6 marks. So if each step, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we get each of these steps correct, you get this answer. Give yourself 6 marks. Number 8, if the h of x equals negative x squared minus 3 and x is less than or equals 0, find the h to the negative 1 and state the domain and range of h to the negative 1. H to the negative 1 is its inverse. Well, first step is that x is less than or equal to 1, so that means that the y value starts at negative 3, and because this is negative, the y values are going down, so the x values start, the vertex of this parabola, vertex is x is 0, y is negative 3, so the x values are, it could be left or right, but I'm picking the left side, and the y values, because that's negative, is going down from a negative 3. So let's find its inverse. So we change the h of x to a y. We move the minus 3 to the left side to make it a plus. And now we multiply by negative 1 because we want to make negative 1 times negative x squared is x squared. And a negative 1 times y plus 3 becomes negative y minus 3. Now we'll do the square root of each side. Square root of x squared is x. And this becomes plus or minus the square root of negative y minus 3. Now, before we write down, this is the f of x, the f to the negative 1, I meant is inverse. But we notice that here, x is less than or equal to 0, and y is less than or equal to negative 3. So that means that f to the negative 1 has a domain and a range. Your domain becomes your range, and the range becomes your domain. The domains are always x's, the range are always y's, but they're switched around. So this is y is greater than or equal to 0, and this is x is less than or equal to negative 3. So what happens is that we have, I forgot to switch. I didn't switch. So I just noticed I didn't switch them. I changed the f of x to a y, but I didn't switch them. So this becomes the x, and this becomes the y. So this is the x, this is the y, this is the x, this is the x, again, sorry about it. This is the y, so there's this inverse, sorry. I forgot to switch, change the y to an x and x to a y. Now that I've done that, everything is okay. So this is okay. But what I'm trying to get at is that your domain is x is less than or equal to negative 3, because when you put negative 3 in here, it gives you 3, gives you 0, and the numbers, the values of x got to be less than equal to negative 3 in order to have a positive number underneath here. But the y's are less than or equal to, so that means y is less than or equal to 0, so that's the negative. So apologize for not switching here, just got lost for a second. So change the h of x to a y, switch the x and y's, then move to 3, and then do your negative. Okay, there's 9 marks here. So if you did this domain and range here correctly, you get a mark. If you did this one, if you switched it and moved to 3, you get 2 marks there, a mark here. So everywhere here you get a mark. And if you did this with a negative, it's a negative and a positive, but it's a negative because the y's are less than. So that negative gives you a mark. And these 2 domain and ranges give you a mark, so 9 marks altogether. Number 9, find the intersection of the p of negative 1 and the f of negative 1 if the p of x is x squared plus 3 and x is greater than or equal to 0. The f of x equals x plus 1 all squared, where x is greater than or equal to 1. So let's find the intersection. Let's find the inverses first. So the p of x becomes the y, and we switch the y and the x. We solve for y. Square root of y squared is y. This is plus minus the square root of x minus 3. Now, right here, this is a parabola, and the parabola has a left and a right side. So we're saying x is greater than or equal to 0, so we're taking the right side. But the y is, y starts at 3 and plus, so the y is greater than or equal to 3. So that means here, this is the p of x, so this is p to the negative 1 of x, and x in the p to the negative 1, your domain is your range. So your domain is x is greater or equal to 0, so that means y is greater than or equal to 0. And your range here is your domain, so x is greater than or equal to 3. So what happens is that we have plus or minus for the y, but the y's got to be greater than or equal to 0, so that means we have to have the plus. I put the plus there just to show you, but we didn't have to. So we got two of them. The plus is the right side, and the negative is the left side. Because x has to be greater than or equal to 3, and y is greater than or equal to 0, the y value has got to be greater than 0, so that's the plus. Okay, and let's do f of x, this inverse. Change the f of x to a y. Done. Switch the y to an x and an x to a y. We're going to solve, so we got the square root. We can't get at the y until we do the square root, so this is plus or minus square root of x. And square root of y plus 1 all squared is y plus 1. So this is plus or minus root x minus 1. So the f of negative x equals, which one is it? So let's check. Right here, x is greater than or equal to 1. And as a result, the y, the vertex here is negative 1, 0. So the y's, that's a plus. So the y is going to be greater than or equal to 0. So in the f to the negative 1, domain and range, your domain is your range. So y is greater than or equal to negative 1. And your range is your domain, x is greater than or equal to 0. So this is your domain and range, but the y's got to be greater than or equal to negative 1. Again, that's the plus, so it's the plus root x minus 1. Now we want to find our intersection of these two inverses, so we let square root of x minus 3 equal root x minus 1. So we let these two equal, that will give you the point where they're intersecting. Because we have radicals, square root, we will square both sides. So I'll square this side and this side. So the root of x minus 3 squared is an x minus 3. Now we have a binomial being squared, so we'll take the shortcut. Root x times root x is x. The product is negative 1 root x. You double it, it's a negative 2 root x. And a negative 1 times negative 1 is a plus 1. So I did the squaring fast. Now that I have that done, I notice that x is on both sides, so I'll cancel them out. We only got a root left, so I'll move the 2 root x to the left side, make it positive. Move the minus 3, move the negative 2x to the left side, make it positive. Move the minus 3 to the right side and make it positive. So 2 root x equals 4. Divide by 2, root x equals 2. And you square both sides. So x becomes 4. Now, let's take this equation here. We can take either one of these two, makes no difference, this one or this one. So we can sub them in here. So if y equals root x minus 1, x is 4, so we'll put a 4 in here. Square root of 4 is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. So the intersection is 4, 1. That's the ordered pair where the two of them intersect. And just to check, we can check this point too also in this one. So we put the 4 in here and we came up with a 1. Let's put the 4 in here, see if we get a 1. 4 minus 3 is 1, square root of 1 is 1. That's the check. Now, if this is where the inverses intersect, this point, so if we take this point and make it 1, 4, because these are the inverses, so back in the p of x and the f of x, this point 1, 4 should make both of these true. So let's check. X is 1. Put a 1 in here. 1 squared is 1, plus 3, 4. Put a 1 in here. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 squared is 4. So this ordered pair switched makes the p of x and the f of x true also. So we have 13 marks. So you get 4 marks if you get to here. So if you get to here, you get 4 marks each for each of the steps. And if you get to here, you get 4 marks. That's 8 marks altogether, because you're switching. But it's important to notice that the y value here is what makes this a plus. The y value here is what makes this a plus, so that's very important. And we let the equations equal each other. We squared, and we solve them out, and we have a 4, and we got a 1, and when we got the point, so 14 or 13 marks altogether. 4, 4, 5, that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 marks. Total up the page, you have a 28. So that's a little review, just to summarize the first 11 videos. And take your score, put it over 40, divide your 40 into your numerator, get a decimal, move your decimal 2 places to the right to get your percent. And hopefully the percent came out to be a good mark, 100. And you understand solving, doing inverses on the quadratics and linears. And that's the inverse are needed when you do trig equations to get arcs and things like that. We'll discuss that later. Again, if you like my video, click the like button, click the subscribe button. If you're not a subscriber, visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. That's the content on my YouTube channel called Math Fully Explained. Just one word. Thank you for viewing my video. Hope the video helped you. Bye-bye.